She's under the weather, and I'm above the weather, I guess. I'm standing on a cloud, so we're going to make this happen. But I just want y'all to know it's such an honor to have you here, and it's such a wonderful organization to be a part of, the Lanier County Historical Society, to preserve and protect and to store our history for future generations to enjoy, because our community has such a rich and vibrant heritage that needs to be preserved and shared for many generations. But we're going to go ahead and open up our meeting. And I'd like to ask Ms. Moore, if you don't mind, to ask the invocation for us, and we'll do the pledge to the flag.
All right, and I've already asked our speaker tonight to do
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
That's right. Lord, we do thank you so much that you gather us together and that we can just learn more about the world, Lord, and more about things of Lakeland. Lord, I pray for this group as they do strive to preserve the heritage of this community. Lord, I pray for each one in here, their health, Lord, and just anything that's going on in their life, Lord, you know what it is, and just comfort, protect, and give them peace and whatever they need. Lord, we just ask you to bless us tonight, keep us safe as we leave. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. If y'all will stand, let's go. Lead and pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. All right, just a couple of brief reports. From our last meeting, we had Abe Register, who was our speaker. Did anybody have any comments about his presentation?
Right.
Excellent presentation. I've heard wonderful things about Mr. Register. And that is one that did we get that on film?
Yes,
Mr. Register?
and it's on Facebook now.
And that's something I want to applaud the Advocate for their hard work in recording not only the Historical Society meetings, but all of our public meetings. And if you've got friends or family or anybody that would like to see our Historical Society meetings, you can either go to their Facebook page or on YouTube, search Lanier County Advocate, and all of our Historical Society meetings are on YouTube. So if we have family members that are out of town that want to join the society, they can still watch our meetings online. And again, I want to thank the Advocate for taking the time to come in to try to bring these public meetings to those who either can't be here at a certain time or who are not able to get out of the house and be with us. But that's a wonderful service, and thank y'all for providing that for us.
Well, I wish you'd have mentioned that after I finished.
Yeah. Well, it will be on there for many years to come. We just appreciate the Advocate and their hard work and all they do for our community.
Brian, excuse me a minute. Ashley got an award this week. It was written about it in the paper today.
Absolutely, several awards, was it not?
Yeah.
We applaud y'all for your hard work, and thank y'all. That's one thing. Sometimes it's a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing when you see her coming with a notepad and her camera. So she's a blessing to our community, and so are Lorraine. She's a great lady that works hard to bring the news to everybody in our community. Looking very quickly, we also set the date for the planning meeting, which was the 16th of May, and we'll talk about that when we get to old business. Any other? The financial report, did we not have? She didn't have one ready. All I know is it's very low. So if you would like to make a tax-deductible contribution to a very worthy organization, please, we will accept cash, checks, money orders, any type of financial assistance that you would like to give the society. We try to be very conservative and very frugal with the funds that we have. We like to keep the air conditioner on and the toilet flushing. But if there's any way that you would like to help or sponsor the society, please feel free to do so, either through joining as a member or giving an in-kind contribution. It really does go to help preserve all of our historical artifacts and to provide programs and different things for the community. Looking at some old business, one of the first things that was brought to me to actually look into was reprinting the book Old Times They Are Not Forgotten. Do y'all remember the big book? I think it was printed in the 70s. There are no copies of that book available anymore. and if somebody had come to me and asked if we could digitize it and get a price of what it would cost to maybe print up some copies, because people had been inquiring about getting a copy to have their copy had worn out, or this, that, and the other. And so I had acquired some prices. I digitized the whole book and acquired to get some prices, it's going to be iffy depending on what we want to do. But is that something that the society wants to pursue? Do we want to reprint the book? Do we want to let that just kind of stay in this position that it's at? I know a lot of the history has been rewritten in this Rockmore's book, but I don't know if that's an issue that we want to bring up. Is that something that anybody's interested in pursuing or discussing any further?
What's it going to cost?
Well, it depends. If we print 50, it's going to be $38 a book. If we print, if we print 250, it'll be $12 a book. And so that's the only thing is because the pages are an odd shape. It's not a standard book size. It's an oblong shape, and it's on a different type of paper, and that's with the glue binding. And it's U.S. Press in Valdosta is the one that took it apart and digitized it for me and gave us the quote.
At $12, I mean, we could sell it for 20 or make a few bucks on it, but at 30 or something, I don't know.
Yeah, at 50, it was not economically feasible. It just wasn't worth it unless somebody just wanted copies very badly. But that was something we wanted to discuss, was is it worth investing the $12 in something to have them printed up front and then using them as an economic tool to build up money for the society? Would people want a copy of it? Would it sell? I would hate for us to have 250 copies of a book that nobody wanted either. So that's something I just wanted to throw that out there to let people know that it's there. We've got the prices. I just wanted to see how y'all want to
Have a lot of
pursue it.
people been wanting it?
Usually at Christmas and at the motorcade, people will come by and say, hey, do y'all still have copies of that book? Mine's falling apart. I'd like another one. I would say probably 5 to 10 a year, maybe, come and ask us about it. But people hadn't really been beating down the doors wanting copies. But,
Well, Brian, if people are still wanting copies of it after, how many, 40 years? If we had a few left over, that would be okay.
Am I doing the math right? It was $300
for
250 at $12 a copy. The total cost at $3,000.
Okay, I was about to say, now you're my accountant. And I'm not a math teacher.
I don't have my calculator.
Okay, that's about right. That's right. That's right.
3,000.
Yes, sir. That would be the upfront cost of printing them. Now we can order a lesser amount. There was a lesser amount. I think it was at 150 books, and it ended up going up to like $15, $16 a copy, and it ended up bringing it down to like $1,900. But that again, that is just something for us to, we can table it, discuss it, we can talk about it, and we don't even have to do anything about it. It was just something that the one thing I wanted to make sure that happened was that it was digitized, so that we have an electronic copy. If something were to ever happen, we've still got a copy electronically. Yes, sir.
Got a question. Is there any way to canvass a community?
I mean, we could, I guess, run a poll in the paper, or ask
Take orders, yeah.
if anybody wants to order it. That would be a good way. Now, as far as the history content itself, the majority of the content is also located in Ms. Rockmore's book. If people are looking for the content, but the actual book itself is a totally different item.
I got a lot of information out of it.
So that's the only concern. Is anybody interested? Do we want to pursue?
Well, if we don't have a lot of money right now, maybe we'll put it on the back burner and think about that later on.
That's
So what
absolutely
question?
fine. That's absolutely fine.
Or take kids somewhere.
That's right, that's right. All right. Any other discussion? So we have an agreement. Do we want somebody to make a motion to table that?
Also move.
All right.
So,
All right. It's been moved and seconded to table the issue of reprinting the book Old Times There Not Forgotten. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries. All right. Going to our next portion of old business, the planning meeting that we had on May the 16th. We discussed ways to boost membership. We talked about some speakers, ideas for some speakers to come in. If anybody has any ideas about speakers or somebody that you would like for us to inquire about or to see, let Ms. McCree or some of us know so that we can put that on the schedule. Ms. Rockmore, who was the lady that you were mentioning about?
She's the granddaughter of Morgan Gress, who was the manager of the big lumber mill. He built the log cabin for his own personal pleasure.
And that was
And his granddaughter called, and her name is Morgan
How about that?
Honey. So I'm begging her to come to Lakeland, and I mentioned the date of our next meeting, the 18th. I don't know whether it happened or not, but I'm putting pressure on her.
Oh, well, that would be,
I
that would
think
be
it would
wonderful.
be so easy.
Do we have a scheduled speaker for next month yet?
I had asked Jennifer with her bottle collection, but, she could do it properly.
Okay, all right. Well, let's inquire and see if maybe that's a good lead that she would like to. Now, where does she live?
In Palm Beach Beach.
Oh, why would anybody want to live there?
And only one sister is living, just the two sisters.
Wow, that's just.
And she's not in very good health.
Well, how did you how did you come in contact with her?
She knew her granddaddy lived here.
Uh-huh.
She didn't know the Lock Avenue burned down.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, she called City Hall and asked her about it, and so Diane told her
To
to
call
call me.
you.
And that's how it came.
Well, that's
Just thrilled about it.
I know, that's
Those
surprise. That is
people are
awesome.
still living.
Well, hey, I tell you, it's a small world. Just the same way that Masonic Jewel came back to Lakeland. Now that was an awkward story in itself. How all of that through a tour that came back to the Milltown, came back to Lakeland. And we also talked about the different ideas for an annual dinner, and that pretty much took care of our old business. Looking at new business, just very briefly, we want to talk about our annual dinner that's coming up. The planning committee's recommendation was to invite Dr. Eugene Schoenfeld back. He had contacted me the other day and asked if we would be interested in him coming back in the fall and maybe doing another type of it. He does all kinds of presentations. He did a sociology presentation on a sociological aspect of the causes of the Holocaust the day after he spoke for us at high school. He did that in the auditorium for my high school classes. And he spoke literally for 2 hours straight. The bell rang and the kids sat there. They didn't want to go anywhere. They wanted to just keep listening to him talk. It was just so amazing. But for those of you who don't know Dr. Eugene Schoenfeld, he was a Holocaust survivor. He survived 3 of the Nazi concentration camps. He was in the Warsaw Ghetto. He was then transferred to Dachau and then to finally Auschwitz, where he was liberated. He was liberated in Muhldorf. He was liberated from Muhldorf. But he was phenomenal. We had almost, I think they counted close to 500 people in the high school auditorium. The auditorium was packed at 220. And the runover was in the cafeteria. And so that was one of the largest presentations we'd ever had in the history of high school that I know of. He was phenomenal. But is that something that y'all would like to pursue for our annual banquet, or do we want to maybe pursue someone different? Do we want to try to go in a different direction? What's
He's
your
86 now, consider that.
Yeah.
You might not be here forever. When you get in your 80s, you get in a hurry.
When you get in your 80s, time's ticking. Do y'all think that people would want to come back and hear Dr. Schoenfeld?
Yes.
He is by far. I mean, I had never in the 9 years that I've been teaching, I've never found a speaker that could literally capture the attention span of teenagers like this man did. And literally, he just sat there and just talked and just really just went into detail what happened to him and his family and the whole concept of the Holocaust coming into being. And he laid out this whole plan of what caused the Holocaust, and he said Hitler really wasn't the full blame for it. I mean, Hitler played a part, but there was a lot of other factors that led up to the events of the Holocaust. He said, we all want to say it was Hitler, 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 when in fact there were other things. Moral decay in society was one of them, and the crash of the German economy, and the super hyperinflation that happened there, and people just looking for a refuge, someone to save them, and Hitler just happened to be there at the right time, and it all just fell into place for the Holocaust to happen. And I told him, and he calls me periodically, and I just love talking to him, but he said that he would love to come back and to do something for Lanier County that he really enjoyed. He said he was from a small town in Czechoslovakia, and he said, I thought I came from a small town. He said, then I came to Lakeland. He said, I realized my town wasn't so small. But is there any discussion about that? Do we want to ask him to come back and headline our dinner, or do we want to do something different?
I so moved.
Okay, we've got a motion to bring Dr. Schoenfeld back in a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries. And I'll contact him and let him know, and we'll try to get with the officers and try to set a date that'll work for the whole community. We'll try to look at the community calendar and things that are going on, and plan a day that we can really have a really good banquet and have Dr. Schoenfeld come back down, because he said when he comes back down, he wants to also take some time and have an opportunity to speak to some other groups, maybe the Lions Club or some other people, just so that he can maximize his exposure, just to speak to as many groups as he can.
Did we pay him, Brian?
Yes, ma'am, we did. We gave him, when he came down for that one event, I gave him those $300 that covered it was just to cover his speaking, just to come down, and then I paid the lady that drove him down. I gave her $200 to drive him down here from the Georgia Commission on the Holocaust. So it was $500 in total, and that covered their food and their transportation down here, plus a little stipend for Dr. Schoenfeld coming down and spending the weekend with us. So, and then we actually, one meal, we had our student council, they always brought potluck over and had a wonderful meal there at the log cabin. All right. The next item on our agenda is to recognize our recipients of the Nell Patton Rockmore Scholarship. It's the Nell Patton Rockmore Excellence in Leadership Scholarship. This scholarship was started 2 years ago to recognize Miss Rockmore's accomplishments and the leadership that she has so unselfishly given to this community for so many years. And what we wanted to do, the society, when I was president, we wanted to find a student that was a senior in high school who exhibited the traits that Ms. Rockmore had planted in our community. We wanted to find someone that we could recognize and that we could honor for their hard work and leadership, their dedication to history, and just to encourage them to continue working hard in that aspect. And we wanted to provide a monetary reward to further their education. And this year, we are proud to announce we have 2 recipients of the Nell Patton Rockmore Excellence in Leadership Scholarship, and those are Caleb Douglas and John Raymond Moore. John Raymond's not able to be with us, but he and his family are living the hard life of beach bums this week. They're up in South Carolina enjoying themselves. But Caleb and his mother were with us tonight, and I tell you, it was such, just to tell you a little bit about Caleb, I think I cried more than his mother did at graduation, because I've taught Caleb for 4 years in high school. It seemed like every year he was in my class all 4 years. And I told him, I said, son, you're either going to be the most amazing kid or you're going to be the most messed up kid. I said, I don't know what's going to happen. We're going to have to wait and see. But it happened to me for 4 years. It could be good or bad. But Caleb is a wonderful, wonderful young man, and he is the type of student that literally comes around once in a career. You just don't see students that have the talents, the abilities, the intellectual, critical thinking abilities that Caleb Douglas has exhibited over the last 4 years in high school. He has served as the student council president. He has served as presidents of several organizations. He has served on the Principals Advisory Council, and he has literally been my right hand in everything that I have done. Working here in the Historical Society, he has helped on numerous banquets that we have done. Community service, I don't think there's a book that can hold the amount of work that this young man has done. He's very respected among his peers. He is very respected in the school. And I just want to ask him to come forward, and let's recognize Caleb Douglas as this year's recipient of the Nell Patton Rockmore Excellence in Leadership Scholarship. We'll take a, Ms. Rockmore, if you'll come up, we'll take a picture of Caleb. And we've already presented him with, Ms. Rockmore presented him with a copy of her history book, and he also received a scholarship that was mailed to Valdosta State, where he'll be pursuing a degree in, what was it? History. And so you'll be seeing this gentleman in the back.
Yes.
Okay, all right. We'll get a picture on it. Yeah. But we want to thank Caleb and recognize him. If you had a copy of this week's Lanier County Advocate, there was a nice picture and write-up about Caleb and John Raymond, and I want to recognize John Raymond as well. John Raymond is another one of those great once-in-a-career type students. I doubt very seriously that I'll run a... And these two kids, I feel like they're my own kids. They just are wonderful, wonderful young men. They tag along everywhere I go. I'm one of those types of teachers that I go everywhere. I believe in going and doing and being hands-on and being involved in history. That's the way you learn it. You get immersed in it, involved in it. You don't just sit there and read it out of a book. And so I've taken these kids to Washington, D.C. We've gone to, I don't know how many times we've gone to Atlanta. I took them above the dome. I found the guy with the key who had the key to the secret passage that went above the dome in the Capitol, and we stood outside on top of the gold next to the lady on top of the dome. I mean, we've been everywhere. We've been to campaign rallies. We've been to, we've been all over the place working and doing things and trying to give them exposure. And I just hope that when Caleb graduates, that he comes back to Lanier County and he invests all of that knowledge and all of his talents here in this community. And I love to one day have him in the history department as one of my colleagues. I think he would be an excellent addition here to this community.
Can I say something about it?
You certainly can.
I want to thank the society for setting up this scholarship. It's a real honor.
We certainly appreciate it. I tell you, it's and this I probably should share this, but Miss Rockmore, I tell you, I don't know where we would be without Miss Rockmore. She's such a wonderful lady. And this, we were at a dinner in Atlanta, and Sam Owens, our Attorney General, was sitting there with us, and he was talking. He said, "You know what?" He said, "Our world would be a much better place if we had more people who were Miss Rockmore's, who were willing to get out and get their hands dirty and to get involved and to be proactive in their communities, to make their communities to be a better place, to be a thriving, just wonderful community for people to come and to see." And he said, he was just so elated to have the opportunity to meet and to know her. And this is a scholarship that as long as I'm running around and going, I'm going to make sure that it continues to be awarded to an outstanding senior in our school system, because it's a very deserving award, and it's something that not only we want to honor Ms. Rockmore for, but we want to honor those students who exhibit those same characteristics, because we need to keep that mentality. We need to keep that spirit in our community and keep it going for many, many, many more years to come. But thank you, Ms. Rockmore, and congratulations, Caleb, on all that you do. And I can't wait to hear all the wonderful things that you're going to accomplish. And if you ever need any of us, y'all know y'all can always always call on any of us at any time. But I'm going to move on before I start crying. But Caleb is going to Valdosta State University. He's going to be pursuing a degree in history education. And John Raymond is going to ABAC, and he is undecided as of yet. But I'm sure it's going to involve doing something with golf. I don't know what it is, but he's going to be golfing in the midst of it. At this time, I'm going to ask Miss Letha Moore if you will come up and if you will introduce our guest speaker for tonight. Thank you.
When Mary, when I suggested my niece to come and share some stories with us, Mary said, well, you need to introduce her. So I just let it walk on and on. So this week then I decided, I better write down what I'm going to say about her. And guess what? I wrote her name down. I wrote niece down. I wrote the year I had called that she started her mission work. And I wrote down that she has a son and I have a son named Greg. That just goes to show you how much we're alike. We chose the same name. She didn't back down and I didn't back down. We have Gregs. But I'd like to take a quote that you just made about Ms. Rockmore, about the world being a better place if we had more Ms. Rockmores. Listen, you folks, this world, and I'm saying world, as in Peru, is being a lot better place because of people like Barbara Waldron, and it will continue being that way. She is involved in her community over in Brooks County. She never says no. You can call her any time of the day or night, and she's willing. And she does it with a smile on her face, too. So she is a very, very special niece of mine. I like to say maybe that I had her, but then if she's my daughter, I would have had her when I was 12. So I don't think that happened. But I do kid with my sister and say, I believe she belongs to me, along with my daughter right here, my little daughter. But I do cherish my friendship with my niece, and all I can say is, when I grow up, I'm going to be just like her. So I present to you Barbara Waldron.
She's my favorite aunt. Okay, my name is Barbara Waldron. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, I'll try to talk loud. I just want to say that not any of you are as old as a lot of people in our church. Our church secretary is going to be 102 in July.
Oh my goodness.
So, somebody that has some history under her belt, she can tell you all about it. And she still does a lot. She gets along fine. She lives for herself, and she still drives. She bought a car when she was 96, and they financed it. She's paid it off. So, it's just amazing. She's amazing. But I am a member of First Baptist Church in Quitman, and 4 years ago, I went to my pastor, and we had been talking about starting a mission partnership. And I said, I would really like to do that. And so we prayed about it to see where God was going to send us. And I was leaning towards Nicaragua because I had worked in Nicaragua for about 17 years and with another missionary. And he was leaning towards Africa. And we came back together, and he says, I'm thinking South America. I said, yeah, I'm thinking Peru. And so that's where God led us. And so that's what we have been doing in Peru. We go 3 times a year. I am a volunteer. I've always volunteered. I was trying to think if I ever had a paying job, and I don't think so. I taught kindergarten for a short time, but other than that, I've been a professional volunteer, and I love it because who can yell at a volunteer? So, but in Peru, it's a whole different world. Somebody's listening. Andy will turn off in a little while. But we go to Peru, and the reason the reason that we go to Peru is that just what Jesus said to do, feed my sheep, and that's why we go. We want to spread the word of God in Peru. Okay, we travel, we fly into Lima, and we travel over the Andes. We get up to almost 16,000 feet above sea level, which is quite high, and it's hard to breathe, and you feel like your legs are rubber bands, and all of that good stuff. And but we settle off at about 13,000 feet to actually work, and in the villages called in the highlands. Peru is so vast, and they have every sort of terrain there is. They have jungle, they have mountains, they have the highlands, they have the beach, coastal, everything. But we do work mainly in the highlands, and most of the villages look like this. Where we work is about an hour's drive from a large city called Huancayo, and it's pretty much a modern city. It's very dirty and lots of traffic and lots of people. But there's people that's in the villages that we work in just an hour away that have never been to the big city. You know, it's just it's too expensive to get there. They just don't go. They stay in the mountains. And there are roads to the villages, as you can tell. They're not really for road-going car traffic. It's mostly animals and people that walk on there. Those. But it's a beautiful, beautiful area. It's farm country. The people have their own little farm area. Family will have an area, and they work that area. And you'll see the ladies out there mostly. The women are very, very hard workers in Peru. The men tend to get drunk. They do a lot of drinking, and you know, they just don't work. The women are very hard workers, and that's just the way it is. And we're trying to you know, help change that, and I think we've made some strides in it. The people there are very short. So I feel right at home. I love it, because I am actually taller than a lot of people there. And most of them, it's not that cold, mostly. It does get very cold at night a lot of times, but you'll see the older people dressed, covered from head to toe. They just don't let the sun hit their bodies. But it's not, they don't sweat, they don't get hot, but it's not really cold. I don't understand it. But that's the way it is. It's very dry. Most everywhere you go, you're going to go uphill. You know what? Oh, no. Okay. Sorry to say, I've got the wrong slides here. This is the mayor of Huachuc in the middle. He has become our very, very good friend. And when we go, and on the end is Rolando. He's a native there. And on the other end is our translator that we always have. And so we count on them highly when we go, our translator particularly, and Rolando. And the mayor, like I said, he's just become such a close friend of ours. He was not a Christian when we started going, but he has professed Christ since we've been going. And he was up for re-election a few years ago, and the Catholic Church, every village has a Catholic church, and they had one, but the priest never came. We never saw a priest there, and the people said the priest never comes there. The church is open occasionally, and that was just it. And they accepted that. Well, when the election came up, and the church heard that this mayor had befriended the Christians in North America, he'd even given us a room in the municipal building to store our supplies and things when we came and worked from. And we even stayed in the municipal building a couple of times. And he let us hold meetings there and all. And so he brought in some others, and they campaigned against him. Very strongly they campaigned against him. But the people stood firm, and they voted him back in. And again, no priest has come back to town. We give out many Bibles in Peru. We do a lot of things. We have to meet their material needs as well as their spiritual needs. We know we just can't go in and beat them over the head with a Bible. You just can't do that. You got to help them with their material needs and the things that they require. But we do a lot of that. I thought I had those pictures first, I'm sorry. But we do things like show the Jesus film and other films too. We've showed them Shrek and movies like that. The kids love those. But we also try to show the Jesus film when we're there, and they have it for children and adults, and it's also been translated in the language of Quechua, which is the language of the Highlands. Most of the older people that live there speak Quechua, not Spanish. And well, they speak Spanish, but they understand Quechua. As far as reading it, they can understand it much better than reading Spanish. So we try to show them the film in Quechua. And this particular time, the sound didn't work. I ended up narrating the entire movie. That was kind of rough. We can get into schools at any time. They welcome us into the schools, which is so unusual. Here we have a hard time for Christians to get in to share God's word in the school systems, but there, they just welcome you in. We started doing some door-to-door visits in the village. Realized that there's no pictures on any of the walls of kids, and so we decided we were going to take school pictures. So we go to the school, we take pictures individually, group pictures, sports pictures. We can go into one CAIO. They do have a 1-hour photo Kodak place, and so we get them developed, mount them on little boards, and take them back and give them to the kids. And the parents just love that, and that gives us a foot in the door. This little school up in the mountains asked us to come back and teach them English. So we went back for a week and taught English in that school, and they loved it. Sorry to say it did it again, it quit. They learned some songs in English, and their parents came that afternoon and listened and watched them as they sang. We have collected shoes and socks. The children's shoes will have big holes in them. They'll be so tight on their little feet, or either so big on their feet. And so we'll take shoes, and they get to go in and shop for a pair of shoes that actually fit, and get socks that doesn't have holes in them. And we share God's word through ballooning, through clowning. We'll have festivals and vacation Bible schools. You can see on the back wall, it was sheets hung up with their pictures on it. We had a big festival, and they come to the festival to pick up their school pictures. At this particular festival in this village, we had about 300 kids show up. And we had puppet shows and just did all kinds of games and things with them. They had a great time, and they got their pictures. We tried to work in one area so that we can really make a difference. We don't go to one area and then never go back. We're going to stay in that area till we make a difference, and we get some people there, some Christians there that can carry on what we get started. And so it will grow, and then we'll go on to another village. We have youth camps, lots of fun. We use puppets. This was at an orphanage. We do skits. You can tell that was David and Goliath. Goliath was on the ground there. Big storybooks. If they're not in Spanish, we just have them translated and just tape it right over the words that are there. So you don't have to buy the expensive Spanish books. We painted a map of Peru. This was a geography project, actually, that Telephone Pioneers started years ago and did for schools here in the States, and painting U.S. maps on playgrounds. And so we took it to Peru and painted a map of Peru on the playground. Although the intense sun, it's so close to the equator, it didn't hold up on the playground. So it looked good for a little while. We included Bible verses on it. So we ended up painting it on the walls of the building instead. And it's held up much better on the wall. So, of course, that's South America, not Peru. We've had coloring contests. We give out meds. We give out worming meds to kids. We have volleyball tournaments. Volleyball is a big sport in Peru, and the kids love it. I'll tell you right now, the boys don't hold a candle to girls. The girls can whoop the socks off of some boys. I'm going to tell you, they are really good. We always give them prizes, and they always go to the school supplies and the things that they can use at home other than the toys. We've taken toys, and the toys get left on the table. The kids go in to pick their prize after an event, and they'll get those school supplies. They'll get those colored pencils or that pack of paper or that notebook before they take a toy. And so it just tells you where things are. I'm a face painter and a clown myself, so I've taken face paint, and I've painted faces, arms, legs, backs, and tummies. It's just, and it doesn't sweat. They don't sweat during the day, and they don't take a bath every day, so they'll come back the next day, and I have to find the spot, you know. So they'll be covered from head to toe before I leave, face painting all over them, but they love it. When we go near Christmas time, we always take little gifts for them and let them choose things to take. Parades are a big thing, and when we go, there's usually a big parade. The kids always get dressed up, and they do the little native dances. They're very focused on their culture and their history, and the kids learn native dances and that tell the story of their village. You know, I think that's so cool. So they can dance, and they can tell you who founded their village and who got it started, and just how everything happened. And they can tell you about Peru like that too. We presented a projector, much like this one, to this school. And the last time we were there, we went and the teachers saw that we were there, and they said, well, come out, we're going to play volleyball. So we went and played volleyball with them. They like to play with us, and they know they can beat us. You know, we're so bad. But when we got there, the teacher came out with the projector in his hand. I said, oh no, it's broken, you know. What am I going to do? And he came out, and he wanted to tell me that that was the best gift that they had ever received from anyone. A projector. I mean, can you imagine? Just a projector that, you know, how many schools have them just laying around? But, you know, it's something that they use every day. We have Bible school, and this is one of our crafts. Lowe's gave us these little kits that were in Spanish as well as English of fire trucks, and they got the goggles and the hammers and everything, and made these little fire trucks. And these kids didn't even ask for any help. They read the instructions, and they did it by themselves. And some of them were like first graders. And, you know, it's just amazing that they can do those things by themselves. You know, our kids would be saying, I need some help, I need some help. But they're very, you know, they're just different. It's just, you know, it's there, they're going to read it, they're going to do it. And they did a great job. But the thing that was great was the next day, the parents came to the school, and they thanked us for the hammers. The kids took the hammers home and gave them to their parents, and so they were so thrilled with those little hammers. We also gave them the first ever Easter egg hunt, you know. They didn't know what an Easter egg hunt was, and so I explained to them about the Easter egg hunt, and they just couldn't imagine hunting for an egg in the grass. And we took plastic eggs, and as soon as I opened it up, they saw candy was in it, they grabbed their bags, and they were ready. They were ready to hunt those eggs. The adults get involved. They really enjoyed the balloons. They wanted to learn how to do them, so we did a workshop for adults. We always have people from the Christian Alliance Church who has partnered with us in Huancayo. They always come out. They're always praying for us as we're working. There was a soup kitchen in one of the little villages, and they were cooking over this open fire inside the building. Of course, it was a lot of open space all around, you know, holes in the walls and the ceiling and everything, but it was still inside of a building. The soot was just falling down everywhere as people were trying to eat. And so we purchased this gas stove that we use where we stay, and took it to them, and the mayor agreed to keep their gas tanks full for them. And so now they use the gas stove to cook, and it's much safer for them. We do eye clinics. They have lots of problems with their eyes. Usually it's just, they need a lot of reading glasses mainly. But there have been people that have really bad cataracts. And I have many stories I could tell you about the eye clinic where, people would come in and said, there is just nothing we can do for them. The cataracts are so bad. One lady walks in and she was being led by somebody else on a cane because she couldn't see anything. She was blind. And she walks in and said, we can't help her. What can we do? And one of the teenagers looked through and says, Miss Farmer, how about these? Some glasses that were about that thick, about ½ an inch thick with glass. I said, where did those come from? I'm telling you, they were not in that suitcase. And we put them on her, and she could see. And she walked out without any help. And, it was just, that was purely a God thing. It was nothing that we done, because I know the glasses were not there. They are very happy when they're able to see. They read God's Word. They receive their Bible. We use the Gospel Cube a lot. It's just pictures, and you just flip it over back and forth, and it shares the plan of salvation. And we like to keep fruit in our van at all time, apples and oranges, tangerines and things. And we always put it in bottles of water. And we're going down the road, if it's in the middle of the afternoon, we'll stop, and people working on the road or in the fields, we'll just go out and give them some fruit and water. And they always enjoy that. These people were digging this irrigation ditch by hand. Ladies just cleaning up a rock bed in the schoolyard. We have a group of ladies that we started a knitting group with, and they've turned it into a business, and they're actually making money for their families now. I went one time by myself, didn't have anyone that could go at that time, and so I decided I was going to prepare them a North American meal. And my Aunt Letha can tell you I don't even cook at home, but I'm a high altitude cook. I found that out. I do pretty good at 13,000 feet. I can't cook anything here, but I do really good up there. And they really enjoyed it. And I did some roast and potatoes, and the dogs enjoyed the leftover the next day, and that afternoon, and the next morning I got up and I had 5 dogs that were sitting by our door waiting. But we always write our testimony out. We have it translated into Spanish, and so when we take around flyers to the community, tell them what's going to be happening that week, and all, we can always give them a copy of our testimony as well, so they can know a little bit about us. This is one of the first projects we did. We met this short little pastor. You see how short he is there, and that's his church. There he is and his wife, and I just hover over him. I'm so proud. But anyway, they had that small church, and it was not painted. There was no buildings in the whole community painted, except of course the Catholic Church and the municipal building. So we decided that we were going to paint the church, as well as doing Bible studies and all. We went into town, got paint. They didn't have any stirring sticks. You use what you got. And we primed the building, and we painted the building 3 different colors, and in 2 days. And it looked great. And every time we go by, 4 years later, it still looks good. There's a little bit of tagging around the bottom. Everything, that's graffiti all over it. In Peru, everything gets tagged at some point or another. They're going to write on it with a spray can. But other than that, it still looks great. This is our ladies in our knitting group. We started out with about 14 ladies, and they wanted to learn to knit. So they started learning. They had an instructor come and teach them how to knit. And at first I was buying what they made when I went and bringing it back, and the people in our church was then buying it. But it was gonna kill us because they were making so much. They got to where they could really make it pretty fast. But now we have 4 different knitting groups. They meet and they knit for an hour, they have Bible study for an hour, then they knit for another hour. And I don't have to purchase their products anymore. They are entering into festivals and events and selling them there in Huancayo, and also sending some to a store in Lima. And so they have made this into quite a business, and so they have generated money for their families, and so that's just amazing. And through that ministry, the men, I was talking about the men just get drunk. Many of these, the husbands of these women have started coming, and they want to learn a trade, something that they could do. And so we're working at things that to help them to develop something in that area. And they're wanting to learn more about making cheese and butter. So we know nothing about making cheese and butter, but we're going to find somebody that does and get them started. Had the opportunity to witness, be the witness and the godmother at 2 different weddings in Peru. Rolando and Lucy, our good friends. Our pastor actually went and performed the ceremony. And the dresses came from members of our church. They were donated and they fit everyone perfectly. We didn't have to hem anything, tuck anything. And again, that's a God thing. We had evangelism rallies at night. You just bring out all the chairs you got onto the street, and nobody comes up and down the streets anyway in vehicles. So bring out the beds and put them out, and they all just sit around and have service outside under the stars. Another church wanted to learn more about missions. A group had started meeting and developed a church, and they asked me to come and do a mission workshop for them. We also took the Lord's Supper plates and things that were left over from our church that we didn't use anymore. They were the glass ones instead of the plastic. So took them down there. They were so happy. We were going to have the Lord's Supper at this little church that night. And they had 4 cups up there, and they kept filling them, and that's what they would do. They would go and they drink that, and they could fill it up again, and get the same cup somebody else just had, and they just pass it all around. And so when we gave them these, they were very, very excited about it. We had pamper days. We did pamper days for the ladies. We had manicures, and when you see the nursing mama, they're always nursing their babies. They nurse them till they're about 5. And it don't matter where you are, what they're doing, there's always nursing mamas. But we did manicures and facials, and we were going to do pedicures, but I'll tell you what happened on that in just a second. We used things, I went online and found out that some fruits and vegetables and things that you could mix up and make your own scrubs and all that they had available for them there. So gave them the recipe so they can do it themselves, They don't have to go out and buy anything. And so that was great. And they really enjoyed those pamper days. This couple, along with those pamper days, we were doing the Fireproof. Have you guys seen the Fireproof movie that they put out in Albany, Georgia? And they have a Bible study that goes along with it. It's about fireproofing your marriage, about marriage enrichment. And we did that seminar along with those pamper days. And this couple was part of that. And so we started on Monday. On Wednesday night at church, they announced that because, one night we had talked about how we met our spouses and all, and she shared about how she and Ronald had met and their marriage, that they really weren't married. They were just living together. They had never made it legal. So we didn't say anything, and on Wednesday night, they stood up and said that they had been through the Bible study this week. They really felt convicted about the way that they had been living, and they wanted to get married tomorrow. So the next day, on Thursday, when it was going to be our pedicure day, instead we had a wedding. And again, we got to witness that wedding. And when you witness a wedding in Peru, you get fingerprinted. Probably 6 times we had to put our fingerprints on papers. So, I'm there. They're going to know who I am. But this is their little family. But after they got married, we went down to the irrigation ditch and Jessica was baptized. And then when we got back, the men had decorated this room up with toilet paper streamers there and blankets, and the men had done that. The women and some of the other men had been cooking all day for this wedding. And when they had time to get presents, I don't know. But they started some music, and in comes the presents. And we were at this head table, and they started bringing in 2-liter bottles of Inca Cola and orange drinks, and they bring in bags of fruit and all just anything. And some presents was actually wrapped, and they had some that was actually pieces of furniture. And but the best gift of all, hen and rooster was brought in. They had ribbons all over it. The little hen had a hat on her head, much like that little brown one over there, a little miniature hat like that was on her head. And it was just, that was the most thrilling thing I'd ever seen. You know, there they got a hen and a rooster. I mean, that was a great gift. And I thought, it just can't get any better than this. But it did. They brought in a pig. It was wonderful. And, I mean, you could hold these things and pet them and everything. It was great. And then they put them in a little pen and they took them home. It was just wonderful. You see, there's a man sitting there writing all this down. I mean, they keep a record of everything. So you had to bring a good gift. He was writing it down. But we do all of these things, not just meeting physical needs, material needs, but spiritual needs, and all to give them the Word of God. And we actually do have a church in Watchuck. It is in English because the people said, I was going to write it in Spanish on the walls, and they said, no, we want it in English. And so it's in English. When we go, we stay in the church there, we stay upstairs, and we still have services and Bible studies downstairs.
Are you going to talk about the Amazon trip?
The what? Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. I just want to make sure.
We actually, it's almost there. We actually have given the city of Watchuck a bus, this 24-passenger bus that will hold 52 kids in Peru. They don't care. You just keep stacking them. How many people can you get on a Peruvian bus? Uno más. Just one more. Always one more. But our mayor actually went. Curtis Pickles from Quitman. He went with us, and he was talking to the mayor there, and he mentioned to him about how the kids didn't get to school when it was raining or when it was really cold. Because some kids walk, and I mean, you know, you hear that story from long ago that you walk 2 miles to school in the snow, both ways, uphill both ways, all that kind of stuff. I kid you not, these kids do that. Some of them will actually walk for 2 miles over the mountain to get to school. Okay, and if it's real cold, they don't go, or if it's raining, they don't go. And some kids can afford, parents can afford a taxi, but even at getting the taxi, they have to get over the mountain first to a road that a taxi can pick them up. So, you know, it was very hard for kids to get to school. So, he said, Curtis, it just touched his heart, and he says, y'all need a bus. And so came home, presented it to our church, and our church bought a bus. And they found a bus down there that they liked, and it's now picking up kids every day. It's picking up kids. They're actually making 3 routes to pick up kids and take them to school from the furthest points they started. So it's doing a great ministry. This is our baptism spot most of the time. We baptized 4 people here. It was the mayor's, just on the mayor's property actually, and he lets us go in there. And you have to walk down this grassy knoll, and it's just the most serene place. You can smell the herbs and the spices and the things just growing everywhere, and the wildflowers, and the trek down is just really nice. The trek up is another story. At 13,000 feet, it's hard to get back up there, but getting down is fine. But our youth pastor actually went with us on this trip where we baptized 4 people, and it was just an amazing time. And this is Jessica, and that's the irrigation ditch. In Peru, in the mountains, there's no shortage of water. You know, in third world countries, you know, you always want to say, that, water is a big problem. Their drinking water is a problem, but there's no shortage of water. They have an aqueduct system in the fields that you wouldn't believe. They lift the gate and flood this field and close it and take it over there. It is continuously moving, and they have plenty of water that comes out of those mountains. That you can see how happy she is. This little lamb was at one of the parades, and I noticed this when I got the picture back. I said, "Oh my goodness, that's exactly what we want people to do: is to turn around and seek the lamb, just find Jesus." And that's what we want to do, is share with them. This time, we mentioned the Amazon. I didn't actually put the pictures of the Amazon on this. This last trip, we did take a side trip to the Amazon because Rolando and his wife live. They always said they live in the Amazon. They actually do live in the Amazon. Their house is on stilts, and it's in the water, in the edge of the water. And when the water's high, it's under the water. It's up to their floor. And you have to take a boat. It's 2 hours down the Amazon. We had to fly to Iquitos and then get on a little pick-a-pick boat. And it's called a pick-a-pick boat because that's the sound the motor makes when it's going down the river. And it's one of those boats, you see them on TV a lot. It looks like they're sitting right in the water. You really are. You're just right in the water. And we took 2 hours to get down to their house in this little pick-a-pick boat. And it was one of the saddest things I'd ever seen. And I've seen a lot. In Nicaragua, we saw some very sad, very poor areas. And in Haiti, very poor areas. But in the Amazon, we went to their house and we ate with them. And the mosquitoes, of course, were terrible. The heat was awful. It was so hot. But we went through the jungle to the school. And when we got to the school, every time we go to a school, the teachers gather all the kids out into the open area for us to speak to them. And so we did, and while we were talking to them, 2 of the kids had gone down to the river with a 5-gallon bucket. And they came back with this brown Amazon River water. I mean, it was brown as this bench, And they set it in the middle of the play yard with a cup, and the kids go up and give them a drink of water. They're drinking that dirty water. And I know it's also sewer water because one of the larger boats that go down the river, they do have a toilet on it because it takes about 2 days to get down the river to another village, and it's open right to the water. So